It's punky night tonight. It's punky night tonight. Give us a candle, give us a light. It's punky night tonight. Give me a candle, give me a light. If you don't, I'll give you a fright. If you haven't got a candle, a penny's all right. It's punky night tonight. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Time Between Times Storytelling with me, Owen Staton. It's punky night tonight. Well, it's not actually. Punky night is the last Thursday in October, just before Halloween, Calan Gaeaf, in the southwest of England especially, celebrated in Somerset, in Devon and in Cornwall. Mangolds are hollowed out to make jack-o'-lanterns, in celebration of everything that comes from the other world, and especially the Pixie King, Jack-o'-lantern, and his wife, Joan the Wad. And their stories are especially powerful in the southwest of England, and we will tell one of those tales today, especially for you. So join me at the fire pit at the heart of the forest for another tale traditionally told. Welcome, my friends, to the Time Between Times. The nights are definitely getting lighter. The wheel of the year is turning. The plants are starting to sprout. The leaves are starting to grow on the trees once more, and there is life in the world, and that is a good thing. But by looking at punky night, by looking at all that is dark, we realize that that will come again, that descent into darkness. But now we celebrate the light. I hope you are all well. Thanks again for your continued support of this podcast. Your response to all the tales is sometimes overwhelming. But every email I get, every message I receive, every follower I gain on Twitter or X is always welcome. And I love it so much that people all over the world are hearing these traditional tales here, maybe sometimes for the first time, or for the first time in a long time. So, my friends, let us leave behind the modern trappings of this life. Let us journey to somewhere truly special. Close your eyes if it's safe to do so. Take 3 deep breaths. Clear your mind of everything that you don't want to think about. All those little modern problems that seep into our minds can just disappear for a little while. There we go. Just listen to the tale. You are sat by the fireplace in your house. You've just finished your food and you feel sated and calm. You look outside the window. The sun is still out, but the moon is starting to rise. You feel a sense of excitement, for now is the time between times. You stand up, put on a jacket, look out the window, see people rushing around. The lights from televisions flicker. But that is not for us tonight. You step outside, locking the door behind you, and make your way down the path to the road. Every time your foot hits the concrete, you feel it shudder through your body. But it's not unpleasant. To walk, to journey, is the start of many tales. And today, it's the start of ours. We take a right turn, head through the maze of streets, until we see it in front of us. The forest, trees stretching to the sky, some of them older than thousands of years. For years uncounted they have stood there silent sentinels. But they are just a gateway to where we want to go. We look for a gap in the trees, and there we see it. To an untrained eye, they would think it was nothing, but to us, we know it's the place that leads us to where our heart is truly content. We step on the remains of dead leaves, been there since before the winter started to take its toll, and there we enter the forest. Darkness grows. Shadows lengthen. There is a cool air about the place. Animals scurry just out of sight. As we come across the old mossy tower, overgrown and falling apart, but truly magical. So many adventures have taken place there, so many journeys have started out of the door of that tower. It's almost like our home, but here in the forest. But we turn away and make our way towards the babbling brook. You step over it. One of your feet gets caught by the water. An ice-cold feeling covers it. You chuckle. Although your foot is wet and damp as you step, you realize this is what it's like in the wild. You take the good with the bad. Resilience is built in places like this. And there you see it. The fire pit at the heart of the forest. The fire is flickering, and as you step forward, the heat seems to permeate, seems to draw you in like a magnet. It is surrounded by fallen logs, and there they are. Your friends, your family. Everyone you want to be here is here tonight. Even if they do not still walk these lands, they are here if you want them to be. Here is a place of memories, you see. Here is a place of forgotten fables. Here is a magical place. You greet your friends, your family. You sit on a log and feel the heat from the fire. Drink is passed around. Food is eaten here. And every part of it feels like the finest feast you will ever eat. And then the storyteller rises and starts to speak, and you look up and see that the sun and the moon share the same sky, because now is the time between times, the time when it's neither night nor day, but the sun has gone and the sky is grey, the time when the veil between our world and the fairy world grows a wafer thin, so thin that for a moment, and just a few moments, you can reach into their realm, and they can reach into ours. You see, now is the time that people see lights in the sky. Now is the time that people see the Tylwyth Teg, the fairies, the Very Folk, the Pixies. Now is the time that people see ghosts. Ghosts of the past, ghosts of the future, ghosts of right now. Now is the time between times. So let us make the most of this time, for it is small, but granted to us just now. As we begin our tale traditionally told, and today we journey long ago and far away, to Somerset, in the southwest of England, to the beautiful, bountiful, serene, silent village of Buckland St Mary. There it is, just a few streets, a church, a pub, a few shops, and village greens that seem to stretch for miles. In the summer, the sound of cork on willow echoes as cricket is played, and in the winter, bright lights shine from the home windows. Everyone is friendly there. It is a place full of tradition, and there on the hill is the old church, its graveyard full of some of its greatest residents. But the ones we will speak of today do not lie there, oh no. For many years ago, this serene, silent place was home to one of the bitterest battles ever fought. It was here that the Pixies of Jack O'Lantern and his queen consort, Joan the Wad, fought the Fairies of Oberon and Titania. Where the church now sits, there once was a fairy ring, a large fairy ring, surrounded by lights, and at the time between times all the fairies and the pixies would gather there. The fairies, of course, were always dressed in red, the pixies dressed in green. For most parts of the year they went about their business, travelling throughout the southwest, doing what pixies and fairies did best, making mischief. But every time, on the last Thursday of October, they would meet. They would gather together at that fairy ring in Buckland St Mary to feast, to sing songs, to make merry, to get together. But on this one, many, many years ago, Oberon and Jack-o'-lantern did not see eye to eye. For many years, the pixies and the fairies had clashed over land, clashed over treasure, clashed over bounty. And on this night it all came to a head. The next morning they agreed to meet there on the field in the great ring at the time between times when the sun rose, to fight one final battle. And there it would be decided who would rule the southwest of England. Would it be the pixies or would it be the fairies? Oberon was confident. He was king of the Tylwyth Teg. His warriors were beyond count, and he had travelled all over these fair lands at all times of the year. Jack-o'-lantern was less confident. The pixies, dressed in green, were far less numerous, far less known. But their hearts were filled with courage. And sure enough, the next morning, as the sun started to rise, lights started to pop up around the fairy ring, as if lanterns were rising from the grass. And there they flew in a circle, illuminating this place. From the east they came, the warriors of the fairies. From beyond the vale they travelled, some of them riding small, tiny horses and using pins for swords and spears. They sung their songs that echoed through the night, and at the dawn a new beauty was stepped upon them. And then from the west came the pixies, dressed in green, their hats waving in the wind, their songs singing as well. It was like a battle of choirs at first, as each army rose up and faced each other. Oberon came out and made a speech, saying why the fairies should rule this land. Jack-o'-lantern followed next, singing a song and then giving a speech. And then both armies sang their choir, cacophonous choruses that echoed through the day. But just as the time between times reached its zenith, both kings called for battle. And in a great charge, both armies swept across the land to clash in the centre. At first the pixies gained the upper hand, starting to push back the fairies almost to the edge of the ring. And then the fairy force gained in strength, and a hail of small, tiny, minuscule arrows shot into the pixie ranks. All day they battled, as the sun rose and the moon fell away. Until at night the reverse came, and darkness started to fall. Exhausted, both forces decided to step back, and Oberon and Jack-o'-lantern stepped forward, ready to settle the score in single combat. The armies parted and sat down as one. The lights which illuminated were already magical, but in this dusk they seemed to become something truly special. A glow emanated across the ground as the two fairy kings clashed swords. Back and forth they went, each of them, they were both masters, swinging their blades around. Cheers went up from both sides as one gained the upper hand and then the other. But just when Oberon seemed to be on the cusp of victory, he stepped forward to raise his blade and cut off the head of Jack-o'-lantern. Jack stepped forward and caught Oberon in the thigh with his blade. The fairy king fell to his knees and yielded. The pixies were victorious. Following the great battle, the wise Pixies stepped forward and asked for terms to which the defeated Fairies must adhere to. No red-coated fairy was allowed west of the River Parrett from this point. The Pixies would rule Somerset. The Pixies would rule Cornwall. The Pixies would rule Devon. And the green-coated small folk would be lords in this realm. Oberon and his army turned and walked away. Defeated, they returned to their own lands. The wound in Oberon's leg became dark and started to fester. It would not heal, no matter what ointments or salves they used. And his servant Puck went off on a quest to find a plant that could heal his master. And since then, none of the fairies have set foot in those lands since their defeat at the Battle of Buckland St Mary, a defeat that is remarked and celebrated by Punky Day on the last Thursday in October. A church was built on that fairy ring. But even now, all those hundreds of years later, the jack-o'-lanterns are held as lights in the darkness as the winter starts to fall. And although the Pixies are seen in these lands and are numerous, their magic working wherever they go, there is only one fairy who is sometimes seen. Glimpses caught out of the corner of eyes, shadows and shadows, and shadows that flit from trees. And that would be Puck, still searching for a salve to heal his master. And that, my friends, is this tale of the War of the Little Folk. A small but big tale that still has ramifications today in the southwest of England. Should you go to Buckland St Mary and walk its serene paths, taking in its fresh air, and realise what a beautiful place it is. But always remember that here a great battle took place that shaped the fate of the little folk in Great Britain from that day on. Thank you for listening, my friends, to another tale traditionally told. My name is Owen Staton, and I am a storyteller. Every week I release a new tale for you to listen to, or a mindful listen, or an interview, all here on the Time Between Times. Please, if you would be kind enough to leave a review wherever you get your podcasts, that would greatly help me. Like Puck travelling through enemy lands, you would spread the word of the Time Between Times. Should you want to support me on Ko-fi, go to kofi.com/Owenstaton or patreon.com/Owenstaton7 and buy me a coffee, or become one of my growing band of Patreon supporters who get new content every month from the Time Between Times. But thank you for listening, my friends. Your company is much appreciated. Until next time, Nosta.